You know, when you start at 6, by the time you get to 8 o'clock in the morning, it feels like you've already done a lot. Glad to be with you. This is the Gallo Show on SuperTalk, Mississippi. On the road today, broadcasting live from Sally Kate Winters Family Services in West Point. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and that is our focus today. SuperTalk will be here all day long. Gerard from 10 to 1, Rebecca to follow with good things, and then we'll wrap things up with Sports Talk Mississippi this morning. Lance is in the studio. Richard Cross on site at Sally Kate Winters Family Services. Glad to be with you. And glad to be joined now by the District Attorney's Office. Everybody act right, okay? We don't need any issues while we're here. Scott Colom is the District Attorney here for District 16. And Collen Hudson is Deputy District Attorney. It's great to be with both of you.
Great to be with you as well. Happy to support Sally Kate Winters.
Yeah, all right. So, Scott, you work we visited last year a little bit about the district attorney's role. You obviously work hand in hand with Sally Kate Winters, frankly, more often than you would like to.
Absolutely.
I thought what you said earlier was, while we were in the break, was really appropriate for the existence of Sally Kate Winters. You're glad it's here. You wish it didn't have to be.
Absolutely, because you need Sally Kate Winters because, unfortunately, we have so many children that are abused in so many different ways, and usually it's our most vulnerable and disadvantaged children that are targeted. And thankfully, we have experts at Sally Kate Winters that can step in to assist the children through the investigative process, and that tool becomes very helpful when we prosecute the worst type of offenders you can imagine.
Yeah, you know, Colin, I mentioned earlier when I was talking with Cindy, the new executive director here, is that it's not necessarily something we like to talk about, and I feel like the first time I was here, we kind of talked around the edges, right? We were like, yeah, child abuse, and, you know, this is a safe place for children. The fact of the matter is there is very important work that goes on here that is necessary, one, for the protection of children, but also, two, it's necessary for the prosecution of child abusers.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Sally Kate Winters is such an asset to our prosecution team when it comes to handling cases involving children. And when you say, you know, this is hard to talk about, we're all married adults here,
yeah.
And the subject matter, imagine how hard it is for a child to talk about it. And Sally Kate Winters, with their Child Advocacy Center, they do forensic interviews of the children, make them incredibly comfortable, and we rely on those interviews so much in preparation for prosecuting these cases when they inevitably have to go to trial.
Scott, do you have to go back and re-interview witnesses, cross-examine witnesses? Obviously in a trial setting that's the case, but are you able to rely on these forensic interviews without necessarily having to recreate the trauma of that interview setting?
Absolutely, we rely on them. And in fact, what we do, what we've done in the past is Colin and other prosecutors, as much as they're able, will be present when the interviews occur. So if there's an additional question that from a prosecution standpoint, we think the forensic interviewer needs to ask, we can tell them on site. And so we don't have to go through the process of re-traumatizing the child later on unless the case goes to trial.
Sure.
At that point, you have to prepare the child. And that's why Ms. Hudson, I was so happy to do this with her because she's probably prosecuted more cases of sexual abuse of children, child abuse of children than anybody in my office. I like to call her the expert, but I don't know if she likes being the expert at it. But she's so good with children.
Yeah.
And so it's very important work. She's been on the ground at Sally Kate Winters, helping the interviewers make sure they get the information we need to hopefully prosecute the offender without having the child testify, because that can be a really difficult thing for a child.
So, Colin, what's the balance in determining what cases get prosecuted or are prosecutable versus listening to interviews, looking at evidence, and saying this is not a case where we can get a conviction?
So once a child's interviewed, that case is going to go on a docket to be presented to a grand jury.
Right.
and we explain to the grand jury what was disclosed in the interview, what we have to prove in the event of a trial to prosecute the case, to meet all of the elements of the crime that's been alleged, and then the grand jury makes a decision on whether or not there was enough disclosed in that forensic interview or any subsequent investigation, and they make the decision on whether we go forward, they return an indictment. And it's so important, the forensic interview, because a lot of times, these offenses are done in secret, so you don't have eyewitnesses or other people other than the child who are able to tell what happened.
Yeah.
A lot of it's disclosed way after the event took place, so you can't collect DNA or other physical evidence. So really the forensic interview a lot of times is what we're hanging our hat on. And so that's important when we present it to the grand jury, but it's also important to follow up with the investigator, say, look, this is what the child said. Go out there, find something that can corroborate what the child is saying, because we want to take some of this weight off the child's shoulders.
Right.
And present this to a jury so justice, can be served against the offender.
So this maybe is for both of you, but Colleen, especially for you since you're so involved with these cases, how do you avoid becoming emotionally invested in the story of a child? And I ask this with all sincerity, knowing the seriousness of these charges, and in the event it's not something that actually happened, how a life can be ruined as well. I mean, because there's a balance there, right, between a child and wanting to get justice for them, but also someone who is accused of something that they didn't actually do, and it's just scary and life-altering for that person.
So, again, Sally Kate Winters, they offer so many services just outside of the forensic interview that we've been talking about in this interview.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if a child, and we've had it in the past where they make a serious accusation and then you get in the interview and you kind of say, all right, something's off here,
Yeah.
I can't get any, but we've had
I
some,
understand.
but
Sure.
Sally Kate Winters offers other services. This child needs to be in counseling because something's going on. They're making very serious allegations, but what they've alleged might not have been possible. And so you want to make sure the child's getting the services that they need, and we're thankful that Sally Kate has those. But that's the grand jury process protects individuals
Right.
who might have been accused that something else is going on and a crime didn't actually take place.
Well, and we talked about a story earlier today of a 15-year-old that was here, that was in a situation where with their legal guardian, it was an unhealthy situation. They came here, and there were some mental issues, and there were counseling services and clinical services that were available, and fortunately, that has turned into a happy reunion. And it's incredible to see, because I think there are 4 big different tenets within the Sally Kate umbrella.
Right, absolutely. And I can't emphasize enough the difference between a forensic interview and a typical investigative interview.
Okay.
I mean, when you talk about law enforcement interviewing somebody, they're usually either interviewing a suspect, which is by nature accusatory, right?
Right.
And that's a different technique that they're trained about how to interview someone accused of a crime. Or they're interviewing a witness, and they're more focused in on, can they corroborate this through other witness testimony, other forensic evidence, other video evidence. When you're interviewing a child where there's no other witnesses, you've got to try to get as much detail as you can.
Yeah.
So you can then have the investigator try to corroborate that. For example, if the child says, I remember it was a blue couch. If the investigator can go back and show that there's a blue couch at that residence, that becomes important in showing the credibility of the child's statement. Yeah. And also sometimes we have occasions where children recant allegations, and it's important to protect the right of people accused of crimes. And so that's why the forensic interviewers do have to ask about motivations.
Sure.
Did anybody talk to you about your testimony? Anybody, because the system does have to have that balance in rooting out any false accusation as much as we can.
And Colin, you these interviews are taking place. Are you watching them live? Are you watching them after the fact? How does that work?
Yes, if I'm able to be there, they have a TV screen,
circuit, yeah.
Closed circuit TV, and then we watch it. And the forensic interviewers take a break before they can come, and then they come back and ask questions.
So that
is there
gives
anything,
the interviewer the opportunity to consult with you if there's a topic you want them to dig deeper on.
Right. You know, a lot of times we'll say, see if she remembers any markings on their body. And then they'll go and ask and come back and say, yeah, they describe this sort of tattoo. And then that's wonderful, especially if it's in a place that is normally concealed by clothing.
Sure.
Then the investigator with the law enforcement agency can take a picture of that body part. And then that's a huge weight off just the child's testimony at that point.
Such important work that both of you are doing. Thank you for your service and for your continued support of the work that's happening here at Sally Kate Winters Family Services. Applaud both of you for your efforts.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for spending some time with us as well. Scott Colom, who's the district attorney here for the 16th District, and Collen Hudson, deputy district attorney. Obviously very, very heavy stuff and just a part of the workload that they're carrying.